we are going to be holding Channel Coast elections, not national. So several things. There are 3 seats available or open coming up. They will not start until June of 2021. It is a 2-year requirement or term of service, and you must be a member in good standing. We are going to open up nominations. It'll be Tim and myself that'll be in charge of the nomination process. So nominations will be open as of tonight till October 28th. If you're interested or you know someone who is, if you'd like to nominate yourself, please go ahead and submit your name and either a bio or maybe a reason you'd like to run for the board. If you're going to nominate someone else, please talk to them before you submit their name for nomination, just so they're aware of it. But we will take that up until October 28th. After October 28th, and the board has approved every one that, as far as the nominations, we will go ahead and create a ballot. And then you'll have 7 days once we open up the voting to vote for a potential of 3 members for the board. If you have any questions, please go ahead and follow them up by email to myself or Tim, and we'll get those answered pretty promptly. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Jeff, you want to get us started?
All right. Does anyone have any, before I do that, anybody have any questions about the election and the nomination before we move into instruction? All right, seem to be good. All right. Well, we've gone through.
Kathy.
Yeah.
Give us a Cliff Notes version. What is a member in good standing?
A member in good standing is you must have your dues paid up and you have completed all your forms. You've for this year. Those are the 2 priorities. You must have all your fees paid. Oh, and you must be certified. So you must be certified as a active member for this year, which is 2020 to 2021.
It has nothing to do with your rating?
It has nothing to do with your rating.
Is this in the new bylaws?
No, this is the current. The bylaws that we're working on right now won't go into effect until the membership votes on them, CCVOA reviews them and approves them, and then they're finalized by the membership and the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kathy, is there a minimum number of years required in the unit to run for the board?
No.
So, no, okay. So
Jeff, what were the positions?
It's a member at large.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, sorry about that. Okay. All right, we've gone through all the rules pretty much. So I am going to be, tonight, we're going to be going over the R1 position, the R2 position, other responsibilities, and also what I'd like to do at the end is, as the last thing, I'd like to have a discussion on ways to interact with coaches, both positively and both positive interactions you might have and ways you have, and also possibly how to deal with negative interactions by the coach. But that's towards the end. So I just want, especially our veteran officials, I'd like you to be thinking about that and contributing to the conversation on ways that you deal with coaches like Robert when they get out of control. So, and rather than just whip out the cards and send them to the showers. Okay. So I've got a couple of videos to go over that were provided by CIF that I'm going to show you. And I know some of the way these are, some of these topics have been touched on in other areas of our instruction so far, but the way the videos are put together, it's going to be a little bit of a repeat for some, but never hurts to hear it again. That's for sure. So any questions before I get started into that? All right. Thank you to those who have study guide. Obviously, everybody knows is closed. The classification exam is open and lots of people have already taken it. So thank you for those who have taken it. So, and for those that have not, it is available for and open for you to take it when you have time. Huh?
When does the classification exam close?
I believe we have it open for 2 weeks. I believe, I'll check it when we get going. I'll check it. I'll have an answer for you by the end of the night.
Classification exam ends tomorrow night at midnight. Excuse me, Friday night at midnight.
Thank you. Tomorrow, yeah, we had it to the 15th.
Not tomorrow, it's Friday, I'm sorry.
Friday. Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
So everybody got that? Friday at midnight, you have to finish the classification exam. All right. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Robert, you got to let me, you have to enable sharing for me, please, so I can share my screen. All right. Thank you.
From arrival courtside to the last point of a match, as either a first or second referee, you have responsibilities to take care of which help in ensuring a fair match for all participants. An essential component to being a good referee is the combination of getting yourself in the proper frame of mind before putting on your uniform and the work you do prior to the start of the match to ensure that all members of the officiating team are on the same page. Remember, as a referee, you need to facilitate a fair match, not to be the volleyball police. Your demeanor, professionalism, knowledge, and appearance go a long way in helping you achieve that. You need to be in control of the match without controlling it. Working with your crew and remembering that the game is for the athletes also helps you to facilitate the match. As a referee, you are in charge of the match from the moment you arrive courtside in uniform. You have a lot of responsibilities before the match even begins. You should stay calm and focused throughout the entire match. No matter how others might react in any given situation during the match, you must keep your focus at all times. That is one of the primary expectations of you as a referee, to maintain your professionalism no matter how others might act before, during, or after the match. Consistency is also a key to being a good volleyball referee. You must be consistent not only in your ball handling judgment, but in your communication with the participants and in your handling of situations that arise during the match. To allow yourself as much time as possible to prepare for the start of the match, arrive courtside in full uniform at least 30 minutes prior to match start time. Make sure you have all the necessary equipment with you. Remember to inspect the playing area with your partner and establish the ground rules for the court and facility in which you are officiating. Always measure the net and check the pressure in the game balls. You want to make sure that all is set for the teams who are about to begin play. This is something that should be done before each match, not just the first of the day. Conduct the captain's meeting 20 minutes before match start time and ensure the warm-ups are timed properly. For each match you referee, take the time to meet with your officiating team to discuss their responsibilities. When you are the second referee, you also want to be courtside approximately 30 minutes before match start time, again, in full uniform and with the necessary equipment. This gives you the time needed to inspect the area with your partner and make sure you have enough room between the score table and net post to perform your duties. If you don't have enough room, and if you are able to do so, move the table to allow you more room. Attend the captain's meeting, and when the first referee asks you, offer any information to the captains that might be needed on match protocols. After the captain's meeting, time the warm-ups. Since you work closely with those at the score table during the match, take enough time to make sure that both the scorer and assistant scorer are proficient in their duties. When it is time for the captain's meeting, here are some things you should cover. Introductions, ground rules, jewelry rule. No jewelry may be worn, including barrettes and hard hair bands. Ask the second referee if there's anything to add. At this point, your partner can mention the correct substitution technique. If the second referee does not, then you should. And finally, ask the captains if they have any questions. The last thing to do is conduct the coin toss and then wish the captains good luck. After the captain's meeting, both referees must be aware of the warm-ups that are occurring on the court. The warm-ups are of different lengths based on whether you are officiating in a tournament situation or in a single match. During a tournament, warm-ups are 10 minutes for each match, consisting of 2 minutes of shared ball handling, followed by 4 minutes of on-court time for each team. In a single match situation, warm-ups are 17 minutes in length. After the captain's meeting, the teams have a 5-minute shared ball handling time, followed by 6 minutes for the serving team on the entire court, and then 6 minutes for the receiving team on the entire court. Remember that the opponent may use volleyballs off the court or in pedestrian walkways, while the other team has exclusive use of.
Don't go with this. This is
Yeah.
not necessarily applying to us.
Yeah, that's USA.
I'll be going over our warm-up procedures today as well. So what we are going to be using. So don't worry about that.
Playing court. Team uniforms consist of jerseys and shorts, and for high school varsity events must be identical. Make sure you understand any variations in the uniform rule for each match you are officiating. For all events, the following should be enforced. No duplicate numbers. Jersey numbers can be from 00.
That was also they do not need to be identical in high school. In high school, the rule is they need to be like colored, and the bottoms may be different. So if one girl is wearing tights and one girl is wearing spandex shorts, those are legal, okay? As long as the colors are the same, and with the uniforms.
0 to 99 and must be affixed in a permanent manner. Jersey numbers must be clearly visible and a minimum of 4 inches in height centered on the chest area and a minimum of 6 inches in height centered on the upper back. Also be aware that the number in front can be no lower than 5 inches from the neckline. Each jersey must use the same color and number height for all players except the libero. The color and brightness of the numbers must clearly contrast with the color and brightness of the jersey. If undergarments are worn, they must be similar and the same color for any team members except the libero who wears that undergarment. And finally, the libero jersey must be immediately recognized from all angles as being in clear contrast to and distinct from the other members of the team.
Jeff, I'm sorry to interrupt, but doesn't the rule book say 0 to 99, not 00?
Right, this is USA, not NFHS.
So this was not made. This covers, like Kathy said, it covers some other rule books as well.
Okay, thank you.
The
Sorry.
implementation of the solid color uniform top began in 2016. Here are the important points to remember as you check the team's jerseys. The team may be in solid color jerseys that are in contrast to the predominant colors of the libero's jersey. The libero may wear the solid color jersey, and the color must be in contrast to the predominant colors of the team uniforms, or both team and libero may be in solid color jerseys, and the libero's jersey must be a clearly contrasting color to the teammate's jersey. The solid color uniform top may have a single mascot reference on the sleeve or body of the uniform, not to exceed space of either 4x4 or 3x5 inches. During the warm-ups, as the first referee, meet with all line judges who are officiating the match. Be sure you talk to all those who might be calling lines in case they change each set. Do your best to keep the meeting concise and short. remembering you have other things to do before starting the match on time. Remind the line judges that when the match begins and they take their place on the court, sandals are not to be worn. Like the athletes playing, they must be wearing shoes. Although your talk with the line judges varies depending on their level of expertise, here are the items you must touch on. In or out, noting that when the ball contacts the line, the correct call is in. Touches, remembering to say that it is not just touches at the net, but touches by any player on the court. Antennas, mentioning to them that either line judge can call either antenna. Foot faults on the server. And if the line judges are more experienced, ask them to assist with pancakes. You also want to remind the line judges of these things: where to stand during play, which lines each one is responsible for, when and where to move when a server comes close to their position, and where to stand during a timeout. When you are the second referee, you should have the discussion with the scorer and assistant scorer. Consider including the first referee so you both know what to expect from the scorers during the match. Although this discussion should be brief, it should also be thorough. Ask the scorer her experience level and knowledge of the sheet. We have all heard scorers say they are comfortable in what they are doing, only to find that things aren't quite what they seem. Have the scorer demonstrate how she records substitutions and what information she checks during a timeout. Let her know play won't begin until she indicates she has recorded all information and is ready to go. Make sure she checks that each time the ball is served, it is by the correct player, and then ask her what she will do if it isn't. Ask her if she understands the use of the sanction remarks box. If she does not, assure her you are there to assist her if the need arises, that she is on your team and you will not leave her in the dark. Maybe most importantly, remind her that she must pay attention at all times. Remind her that we all make mistakes and they can happen even when everyone is doing their best. If the entire officiating team works together, the mistakes can be minimized and when they occur, can be solved much more quickly. Remind the scorer that the first referee visually confirms the score with the second referee and that you as the second referee will initial the score sheet at the end of each set. This assures all are on the same page. Remember that as a referee, it is imperative you know how to keep score. It is impossible to teach or assist scorers if you have no idea of what their job entails. When talking with the scorer, always include the assistant scorer. Assess her knowledge of the Libero tracking sheet and how she records all replacements that occur. Talk to her about when and how to notify you if a wrong replacement occurs. Tell her to confirm that the Libero who enters the court is actually the Libero that is recorded on the lineup sheet for each set. Let the assistant scorer know that she is to work closely with the scorer during the match, and that she also records all substitutions on her sheet. Remind her she is a very important part of the officiating team and you can't do your job without her. And just as you did with the scorer, remind her that she must pay attention at all times. Her job just might be the hardest since she needs to pay attention to the court when play is not going on. But again, if she does her best and pays attention for all replacements, then the chances greatly improve that the match will flow along smoothly. When you are officiating with an experienced second referee, you might decide to not say much. But just because someone received a referee certification and has years of experience does not mean you should skip the pre-game discussion. Cover the discrete signals such as 4 hits, illegal attacks, illegal blocks, balls down, and how sanctions are asked for. Go over the communication you expect during the match, especially on how you prefer assistance on contacts you cannot see. Ask your partner how he plans on letting you know if the scorers are struggling and need more time, or how he plans on letting you know when he thinks the line judge made an incorrect call. And then, when the match starts, be thankful you can get on the stand and concentrate on doing a good job as a first referee. If you think the second referee is knowledgeable on the subject, talk to him about players being out of position and what you would like whistled. If your partner does not understand out of position, let him know that you'll whistle the fault when you see it occur. Mention to the second referee that you expect him to transition and be on the blocker side of the net during play. You'll find that with the more experience you gain, the longer the pre-match discussion with your partner becomes. Experience gains us knowledge of what could and does happen in a match where we might need assistance from our crew. And now you have completed learning about your pre-match responsibilities as a first and second referee. Let's move on to your post-match responsibilities. At the end of the match, thank your officiating crew. Let them know you appreciated their assistance during the match with an earnest handshake and kind word. Then gather all your belongings, and after the second referee has completed his duties, leave the playing area with your partner. As a second referee, you also have responsibilities at the end of the match. You need to initial the score sheet after checking it over to ensure all is correct. Make sure the correct team is recorded as having won the match, the scores are correct, and that all information is complete. And don't forget to thank the officiating team for a job well done. An honest post-match discussion with your partner and, when possible, with the officiating team helps your growth as a referee. Even if you feel you had an easy match to referee and nothing significant occurred during the match, there are plenty of things to talk about. Some potential topics of discussion are ball handling, back row situations, players and coach interactions, referee communication. There are always specific plays to be discussed. Was the double contact you let go an athletic play by the setter? Should that quick net play have been reaching over? Was the libero behind the attack line when setting the ball to a teammate? And what more could you have done as the second referee to assist your partner? Could you have worked better with the scorer? What suggestions do you have for yourself and your partner on improvement for the next match you officiate? You should always walk away from the post-match discussion with some points of emphasis. This is the best way to continue your growth as a referee. And finally, take stock at the end of each match and consider what adjustments you can make to be better prepared the next time you step onto the volleyball court as a referee.
All right. I'm going to stop share for a moment. I got another video we're going to go to, but I want to go over some things first in that presentation. Some of those are not correct because they apply to other rule books. So in terms of the jersey, 00 is not an allowable number. We're using 0 through 99. 0 through 99 are the allowable numbers, okay? Numbers in high school, a number may be placed offset. It does not have to be centered on the chest. If it's, as long as it's far enough down and 4 inches in height, it can be like offset. Like if you can see my shirt, if this was a number over here, that would be allowable here. It does not necessarily have to be centered on the uniform. On the back, it does have to be centered, has to be 6 inches. Players can have their name, their number, or a team logo on their shorts. They are allowed, any of those items are allowed to be on the shorts of the player. The number, however, must correspond or match the number of the uniform. So they can't wear a number 4 on their uniform bottom and have a number 6 on their uniform top. Okay, so the numbers must match if they're going to put their number on their shorts. Okay, doesn't happen, happens a little bit. It's not, doesn't happen that often. I already touched on uniform bottoms do not have to be, they have to be like colored, but they do not have to be like styled. So tights, if one girl wants to wear tights and another girl's wearing, you know, board shorts, as long as they're like colored, that's okay in high school. Okay, uniforms, same, they need to be like colored. Okay, in relationship to the libero uniform, it must be clearly contrasting. Okay, so flips or reversals are not allowed. In other words, if a player, for example, or a team had a gray and a red jersey, maybe where it half of the jersey was gray, half of the jersey was red, and they just transpose those two colors, that will not work. They can't just flip those colors and let one be for the libero and the other. They have to be clearly visible. Matter of fact, if I was wearing a red, half my jersey was red on the team, not the libero. If half the jersey is red, the libero cannot wear a red jersey or a color that matches that, even if it was solid color. Okay, you have to be able to clearly be able to determine from any angle that that is the libero, okay, and not a player. Let me see what else. Uniforms have to be worn as intended by the manufacturer. So I know this rule applies in basketball as well. What that means is if the jersey is intended to be worn outside of the shorts, not tucked in, that's fine. Okay, the jersey must cover their whole midsection. Basically, it has to cover to the shorts while standing in a normal position. Okay, so if they're standing upright and their jersey is covering, if they're holding their hands up like in a blocking position, their jersey covers all the way to their shorts, there's good. If they jump to block and the jersey rides up a little and shows a little of their midriff, that's fine. We're letting, that's not a violation. We are letting that continue because it was when they were in a standing position, the jersey was properly worn. Okay. Okay, they're allowed a manufacturer's logo and they are allowed an American flag on their uniform. The American flag, I believe, is 2 by 3, 2 inches by 3 inches is the max allowable for the American flag, and a 2 1/4 square is the allowable, up to a 2 inches and 1/4 square is allowable for the manufacturer's logo. Are we going to get out a ruler and check these things? No, we are definitely not going to do that. As long as it seems appropriate to you, that is fine. Okay. If you do come across a situation where there is a uniform issue, and it could be for the whole team, not just for one player, you know, a team ordered their uniforms, there's something not right. An example might be that the number that they wear on their uniforms is not clearly visible enough. It's too close, like a yellow number on a white jersey, for example, where it doesn't contrast enough. That could be something that you want to bring to our attention so that we can talk to them. I know this was with my other unit, and our president and instructional chair were a little, I don't know, overzealous maybe, but Sandy Inez had board shorts that had metal grommets. If you, the little holes, you know, like board shorts might have to let the water out and sand out, had metal grommets on the shorts. Well, no metal is supposed to be allowed. They got a little antsy about it. Yeah, I can see Robert showing them. So that's not allowed. So when we allowed it for regulation play, but they made them take it off when they went into playoffs. So they weren't allowed to wear those. I think they had to cut them out or something. I don't know exactly what they did. That was years and years ago, though. All right. Okay, they talked about lines people in here. Any questions for me on uniform before I move on to lines people?
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
What if they tie their sleeves up to make them tank tops? Do we care?
I don't think that's an issue. So,
Cool, thank you.
Now, as long as you can see the number, you still need to be able to see the number.
thanks, Tony. Yeah, that makes sense. And sleeve, that's another thing. So if some players like to wear a sleeveless uniform and some want to wear a long sleeve uniform, as long as the colors are the same, allowable. Okay. Okay, lines people. We are going to be given lines people. Lines people are going to be provided by the home manager. If we're lucky, there'll be good qualified lines people. That happens less than 50% of the time. You hope, and the best thing is that the 2 lines people that you were assigned are going to be with you the entire match. That is not always the case. They switch off, parents come to pick up kids, they have to leave, etc. So the best thing is to try and pin down the coach, say who's going to be lining, are they going to be there the whole match? And if they say no, say then I want if you could talk to all the lines people at once who are going to be officiating that match with you, even if they're going to be switching, that is the best thing to do. Not always going to happen. One girl's going to leave, another girl's going to take her place. Okay. What I do in those situations is when I have a new lines person who's showed up on game 2 or set 2, I try and bring them over to my stand. I try and give them as quickly as I can, give them another run through on lining. Okay. We are going to be in our final meeting, we're going to be talking a lot about lines. We're actually going to have a line clinic going on. I'll talk about that at the end of the night. But so I'm not going to go into what a lines person's duties are and what we're going to say to them, because that's all going to be covered on the 28th. Okay. I just want to talk about that. You want to talk to all the lines people at once if you can, and you want them to stay for the match if you can, if it's only 2, that's the best. So a couple of them will provide parents as well, and that's good, or adults. I've had that at some of these, and that's better as well when you can get adults on there. Just to clarify, I don't know if all the new pancake was mentioned, that some lines people can rule on a pancake. And for those that maybe are new and don't know, a pancake is when a player dives and puts their hand flat on the ground and the ball hits their hand and jumps straight up. It's a difficult call because sometimes it happens very quickly and you can't tell whether the ball hit their hand or whether the ball hit the floor. A lines person is allowed to help you with that call, okay? With rookie lines people, I do not even bring that to their attention, okay? If I know that they are new and they're just getting into it. But again, that'll be covered. So that's what meant by a pancake. I don't know if I just wasn't sure if all the newer officials understood what a pancake is.
Jeff,
Yes.
Jeff, is a pancake legal?
Yes, a pancake is legal, totally legal, as long as the ball completely touches the hand. A lot of times what can happen with a pancake is that the ball will touch the front fingers and the floor at the same time. That would not be legal, okay? But you'll usually get a different reaction from the ball when that happens, okay? But again, in college, you need your lines people to help you with those calls. It's very critical that the lines piece, if the line person was to see a pancake that the ball, or an attempted pancake where the ball touched the ground, the line person is going to give you a down signal. And we use that at the college level. We do that all the time. That's the responsibility. At the high school level, not so often. Okay, it's just a difficult call to make.
Yeah. What would now you might be going over this next time, and if you have experienced lines people, what would the signal be?
It's a down. It's down. It's simply the ball is down.
Okay.
It's like the ball hitting the floor. All you're doing is telling
versus no signal.
Ball has hit the floor.
Okay, versus no signal. Got it.
Right. And the other thing, that can be a delayed call. I've done that before where I wasn't sure whether it hit the ground. I waited for the play to complete. Then I've gone to either my R2, who might have seen the play, and got their version of what they saw. And I've also called lines people over and asked them their version of what they saw. So you don't have to blow the whistle if you think but aren't sure. You could let it go and deal with it at the conclusion of that play. All right. All right, and this, in regards to the score sheet, we do not need to initial the score sheet. We are not initialing the score sheet. All you're doing is you are checking with the line at the end of the conclusion of the match. You're checking with your scorekeeper. Are we good? Is everything great? They say we're good. You're leaving. You're going with the other official. You're leaving the court, and you can start your post game if you have. And we'll talk about post game a little bit later. All right. Any questions there so far? All right, I got another video. It's about half. It's about 8 minutes, I believe. This next one, rather than, I think the first one was 16. So this next one's only about 8 minutes. Yeah, this is it. All right.
The second referee's responsibilities during a volleyball match are quite varied. While the first referee is responsible mainly for ball handling judgment, the second referee must handle many different situations. Let's take a look at what duties the second referee has and how those responsibilities can best be handled. Before the start of each set, use the lineup sheet to first check the lineup for the receiving team, followed by the serving team. For each team, let the first referee know who the captain is by pointing to the captain with an open hand. The captain should acknowledge by raising a hand or arm to the first referee. Every time the captain is substituted out or is replaced by the libero, use this same method to let the first referee know who the new playing captain is. Each time you identify the captain, ask her to raise a hand in acknowledgement. After you check the lineups and identify the captains, roll the game ball to the correct server, check with the scorer and assistant scorer to make sure they are ready for play to begin, move to the receiving team side of the net, and then give the ready signal to the first referee. During service, make sure you are watching the receiving team. At the same time, be aware of where the serving team players are. You need to assist your partner with potential back row faults during the ensuing play. But your primary objective at service contact is to watch for any positional faults that occur on the receiving team. Remember that you cannot whistle a positional fault on the serving team. That is a responsibility of only the first referee. At the same time, although the first referee could whistle a positional fault on the receiving team, your partner should not make this call, but should always defer to you. So make sure you know what to look for. At the contact of service, the players must be in the correct position on the court in relation to the other players. There are several ways to track positions. You might use memorization, number patterns, or something unique or common with the players. You just have to find the system that works best for you. Understanding volleyball and the purpose of different lineups will always help. On this slide, you see examples of legal versus illegal player positions on the court. Is the team trying to hide that back row player who has been struggling all day passing the ball? Maybe the setter is trying to find the shortest path to the spot near the net where the passers have been trained to pass the ball. Or is the team attempting to get their attackers into the best possible position? Whatever it might be, when you understand what they are trying to achieve, you have a better chance of understanding the potential positional faults that might occur. Keep in mind, however, that you are not trying to catch a team with a positional fault where the back row player is a quarter of an inch ahead of the corresponding front row player. You should be looking for real positional faults that can be seen clearly with the naked eye. If you think that center back player is closer to the net than the center front player, but can't really tell for sure, then you should not be whistling a positional fault. Your transition begins as soon as the ball is contacted for serve. At the same time, during this first transition, you should always be able to see the first contact of the ball. You are not responsible for whistling ball handling faults, but many times the first referee might need assistance on this play, so you want to keep it in your line of sight. During play, be on the blocker side as often as possible. But wherever you are, remain stationary while the play is at the net so you can accurately judge any faults that occur. Keep your movements during transition quick and efficient. Don't waste energy on unnecessary movements. In this clip, watch the second referee transition during play. You see that she is on the receiving team side of the net as the serve occurs. She transitions to the blocker side of the net as the served ball crosses the net. She continues to transition during the play, remaining stationary when the play is at the net. You see some secondary transition while the ball is in the back court, and then at the end of the play, she moves from the pole and copies the first referee in the signal sequence. Here is another clip of the same referee during a different rally. You see her transition during play, sometimes remaining in place a bit longer depending on where the play is. As soon as the first referee whistles a fault at the end of the play, you see her immediately move away from the pole so she can copy her partner's signal sequence. As a second referee, you have certain responsibilities during each rally. Your primary responsibility is to watch for centerline and net faults. These faults happen in the blink of an eye, so you need to be in position to judge the legality or illegality of all contacts of a player with both the centerline and net. You should also whistle any balls that cross the plane of the net outside the antenna on your side of the net. You also assist the first referee in determining whether an illegal block or attack has occurred, and you must also be aware of all play which involves the libero. You can also assist the first referee in judging pancakes and let your partner know when you see the ball contact the floor. It is imperative to make eye contact with the first referee before and after each rally. This is one form of communication with your partner. The teams can use speech, but how bad would it look if the referees yelled across the court at each other? Your signals and your eye communication keeps you on the same page and in the same game. As you make eye contact at the end of the rally, repeat the signals given by the first referee before scanning both benches for any possible requests for substitutions or timeouts. You never want to be surprised by a request made by either team. You are also responsible for administering substitutions and timeouts and timing the 3-minute interval between all sets. In this clip, watch how the second referee takes great care to scan both benches for requests before refocusing on the court and the next rally. As a second referee, it is also imperative that you know the rules. When a coach questions a call made by the officiating team, you must answer the coach's concern using the language of the rules. Support the first referee at all times during the match, not only with the words you use when speaking to a participant, but in your actions during conversations. Others can only see you talking to a coach or player, but cannot hear what you say. The perception should be one of support for the first referee and the rest of the officiating crew. Beware of shrugging shoulders, pointing, or making gestures that can be construed as unsupportive of the officials working the match. Work with the scorer and assistant scorer. Make sure they are ready after all substitutions and timeouts. When an issue arises, handle it as quickly as possible, but even more importantly, handle it correctly. Lastly, be ready for anything. You never know what will arise next during the match. The duties of the second referee during a volleyball match are endless. The more experience you gain, the better you will be at your job. Watch more experienced referees work as second referees. Dissect their transition and watch their interactions with the match participants. With time, you will know and understand more of the duties and techniques that will make you a first-rate second referee.
Sorry, didn't realize it was over there. I thought they were going one more. Okay. Let me go over some things that were touched on here. Okay. All right. As the R2, remember, you want to identify the captain at the start of the game, at the start of each set. You want to, or it's the start of the match, you want to identify the captain on each team for your R1. If that is to change that, if that captain leaves the floor, you have to then identify who is replacing that person. A lot of times you may not catch it right away. If you see the R1 give you this signal, what they're asking is, who is the new captain? Okay. Do any of our veterans use any different signal to identify that you want a captain's number? I know I work with one official and he does this where he like draws a line across his body like that. Yeah, I think Mary Ann's doing it. Like that indicates you want to know who you're asking who the captain is. That comes from an old thing, is that I think the captain always used to have their number underlined on their jersey. And so that's
it's
why
an
you are on the
FIVB
side.
thing.
Yeah.
It's USA.
Yeah,
Right.
and it still is actually for
Yeah.
FIVB.
So where their number is still there, where it's underlined on the number. So that, yeah, so I've seen that. I've worked with officials who give me that signal. And at first, when I saw it the first time, I didn't know what he was asking. But they're asking for the captain. But our signal, really, to make it less complicated, is just do this. You're saying, see who's the captain. Because a lot of times the R1 is going to catch that maybe before the R2 does, that the captain left the match. Liberos in high school, a libero may be a captain. So if the libero is the captain, they're going to be leaving all the time. And there has to be, in that case, what I'll do is I'll ask who is their alternate captain. So when the libero is off the court, it usually will fall to the setter or whoever the coach designates as their captain. In those cases, you don't have to keep giving the number every time if it's a libero situation where the libero is the captain and leaves, and then the libero comes back, who becomes the captain when the libero is out, as long as it's consistent. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. I don't remember for sure in high school if we give the captain and we give the number rather than point. I know in USA you point. In USA we always point to the player, and that player is supposed to wave at the referee. In high school you can give the number as well, but I still, even in high school, I want them to wave at the referee and let them know, so the referee can identify them. Okay. Talked a little about the R2 and watching the receiving team and their positions. Okay, I know we've touched on this already a couple of times in our instruction, but again, like she said, a couple of things I just want to highlight is if we're talking parts of inches that somebody is in front, let it go. Okay, you have to clearly be able to see that that player was out of position and gaining an advantage. Okay, for you to call an out of rotation on the receiving team. Like I said, you're only going to deal with the receiving team as there are two. You're not going to deal with the serving team. Okay, and that's again something you want to have in your pregame conference. You want to talk with your R1 and find out, and you want to be honest where you are in your ability to identify rotational errors and what type of help you want with rotational errors. I really try not to call a rotational error on the receiving team if I'm the R1, unless it's really bad and I have to for some reason and my R2 is not recognizing it. I try and signal my R2 to help them, let them know that there's a problem and that they need to be looking at it a little bit harder, or I'll try and talk to them during a timeout or between sets to talk about why we have a positional fault there. Okay. Another thing that helps, we talked a little bit about this. I always try to play a numbers game. I try and somehow link the numbers together so I can tell who my setter is and whether they're front row and back row and who their opposite is. Other people use clothing items. Sometimes that'll help if the setter has a red bandana or red bow in their hair or something. That's one way to identify where the setter is. You can use that. Things like that. I know I asked this last week. Does anyone else have any tactics or clues that they use in helping to identify their setter in the opposite or where that setter is on the court? Okay. All right. Okay, we talked about making eye contact with the referee. As an R1, I always, before I blow for service and initiate service, I want to make eye contact or at least look towards my R2 to make sure that they're ready and in position. There have been times when I've been the R2 and I'll have my back turned because I'm dealing with a problem at the table. Something's not right at the table that I'm working with, and my R1 has blown for service and my back is to the court, okay? We don't want to let that happen. You want to make contact and know that the R2 is ready to go. John, you okay?
Yeah, I'm babysitting. Bear with me.
All right. Okay. Where was I there? Okay, making eye contact for service there. We're going to talk about what to do. I'm going to bring up the whole timeout thing. I've got a sheet that shows what we're going to do in timeouts, and we'll talk about giving the court back, how the R2 gives the court back to the R1. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'm going to skip over that for the moment. During play, the R2, they did a very good job of showing that the R2 does not want to constantly be moving from one side to the other, okay? You want to start on the receiving team side, okay? You're watching that. As soon as the ball is contacted for serve and you have nobody out of alignment, okay, that's when I'm going to transition to the serving team side, the team that just served. And now I'm going to stay at the net and be waiting because now I'm on the blocker side. Remember, you want to do your best to always be on the blocker's side of the net as the R2. But if I transition to the serving team, I'm the R2, I'm waiting, I'm waiting for their play, and they make an overpass. Their first pass is going to be tight at the net, and there could be a joust, there could be a net, there could be an undercall. All of these things, I'm going to stay where I am. I'm not going to transition at that point, because if I was to transition at that point, I might lose a call because I'm moving instead of staying there and watching on a tight serve. If I see that it's a good pass, not serve, on a overpass. If I see that the pass is good, that's going to give me that time to transition and get over to the blocker's side now, okay? And we'll also, when we do have, especially with the new guys, when we have time, when we finally get on the floor, we'll show you sort of how to make that transition, how you want to keep. You don't want to turn where you're turning away from the floor at any time. You want to keep that in your vision at all times. Actually, Tony is really good at that. He's at how he makes his transitions, never giving up his responsibility, never taking his eyes off his area of responsibility. Okay, that's sort of our goal there. Other things the R2, like they said, they have lots of responsibility. We want to make sure that we're earning our money down there. We don't want to give coaches and ADs and leagues anything to say, well, why do we really need an R2? Okay, because a good R2 really helps a game go smoothly. Okay, they control the bench, they control the score, the table. Okay, they are helping you with calls, all of those type of things. So it's important that we're doing our job and working hard. All right. So one of those things is you want to be scanning, looking for subs. Okay, sometimes it's not always going to happen. Lots of times I've scanned both ways. I'm getting ready. I move back to focusing on the court. And then all of a sudden the coach decides he throws a sub up there. And so the R1 may catch it. It's not the worst thing because the R1 is looking at the benches. So sub jumps up, runs to the sub zone, on the opposite, and the R2 is on the opposite side. It's okay for the R1 to whistle that we have a sub to let the R2 know that there's a sub coming in. Okay, that's okay. That's not the worst thing. timeouts. As you get more skilled, you sort of get into a rhythm where you can anticipate when a coach is going to want a timeout. For sure, it's not always. There are always going to be times when the coach is going to throw a timeout in that you weren't expecting. Maybe they saw something you didn't like. They saw an out of rotation that hasn't been caught yet. All sorts of reasons. But usually, if a team's going on a run and the other team's losing a lot of points, be thinking now, hey, this guy, he's going to want a timeout soon, and be looking and preparing for that. All right. R1 is going, we'll go over signals too. That'll be on court, but the R1 always mirrors the signals of, the R2 always mirrors the signals of the R1 with a few exceptions. Okay. When the R2 makes the call, he's not necessarily going to mirror the signals of the R1. So if the R2 has a net call or an under call, they're going to make that call, and then the R1 is going to take over in their signaling, and you're not necessarily going to mirror it or mirror all those signals. All right. Let me see if anything else in my notes here. All right. Any questions on anything we saw in either of those two videos that anybody wants to bring up?
Jeff, I got a question.
Yes.
Slide 1.4.
Uh-huh.
There was like an overlapping. I thought it looked legal, but I could have been wrong.
I don't know. I'll have to go. Let me go pull it up, see if I can.
Yeah, just let me know later. I was just curious.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I really didn't put those slides up to go over overlap again. That wasn't really the intent of that presentation, was to go back into the overlap because we spent so much time on that last time. That was just a quick reminder of what the responsibilities of the R2 are when you're on the court. So more than really, I didn't really want to go into this is overlap, this isn't, break it down like we did 2 weeks ago. All right. All right. Sorry. Any other questions on anything we saw there? All right. Okay. Arrival at the gym. We want you on the court 30 minutes prior. Better if you're there 45. Okay. Also, if we are in a lot of times, there will be a triple header going on. The R1 is already there. The person you're going to be working with is already there working the freshman game. Okay, so if you get there with 45 minutes to go, you're not going to be able to sit and talk with the R1 because he's going to be up, or your partner rather, because he's going to be up on the stand. Okay, so it's good to communicate ahead of time prior to the match when you should be there, and whether your partner is going to be available to meet with you for a pregame early, or whether the partner is working the game in front of you, meaning that you're going to have to conduct your pregame in that 20 minutes or 25 minutes between the freshman match and the JV match. Okay, so that's your time. All right, so that's going to happen a lot, where you'll show up and your partner is already there working the game. Okay. In volleyball, for those of you that work other sports, in volleyball, most everyone arrives at the high school level, arrives dressed. Okay, we normally don't arrive and change at the facility. Sometimes there are a few instances where you might have to because you're coming from somewhere else. If I'm coming from work, I usually just change in the car and then go into the gym that way, already with my uniform on. Okay, you want to be watching the pre-match warm-ups, okay, as both officials want to watch. You want to get information on what the setting looks like, whether one or two setters. There's lots of how fast, how skilled the team is, how strong, with the strong hitters or not. All of those types of things are information you're going to get from watching the pregame. So don't use it as a social hour or a social time when the pregame's going on to go around and mingle and talk. Your job is to be watching what's going on, so you're preparing yourself for the upcoming match.
Hear that, B. Lee?
Glad you said it, Tony, and not me.
Oh, B knows I love him, but B is the biggest social butterfly I know. The man knows everybody.
All right. Okay. We're going to try and use the horn. I'm just going through some info I have here. If it's a regular match situation, you want to use the horn to use your signals of the timing in the pre-match warm-up, not your whistle. If it's a tournament situation, it's most likely then going to be your whistle or the R2's whistle that is going to be determining when players are going to move on and off the court for their different parts of the warm-up. I'm going to go over the warm-up, the way we do the warm-up after I'm done here. So we'll talk more about that. Okay, now R2 must check your lineups prior to each set. Okay, we do not carry lineup cards with us in California like they do in other states around the nation. So you use the lineup sheet that was provided by the coach. That's what I want you to use. I don't want you to use the scorebook, because if you're using the lineup sheet and you see a problem where number 6 is supposed to be on the court, but number 12 is there, you have the proof right in your hand to go to the coach. Hey, coach, number 6 is supposed to be on the court. No, I didn't do that. Well, here it is. You wrote it up. It's supposed to be number 6. So if number 6 is on the bench, number 6 has to come into the game. If there is no number 6, then you put the correct player in the game without penalty. Okay. Okay. We'll go through timeouts. We'll go through the responsibilities during a timeout after this. At the end of the set, okay, you want to quickly, as the R2, you want to quickly get the clock started with your 3 minutes. You want to get the coaches their lineup sheets so that they can fill them out, so that they can be returned with 1 minute left to go. They have to get their lineup sheets between sets. They have to get their lineups in 1 minute before the next set. Okay. Are we going to penalize them if they turn it in a little late? No. If there's a reason, if they're refusing to turn it in, that could be a different story. But I've never had that. I don't think I have ever penalized a coach between sets for not turning their lineup in. I have penalized a coach prior to the start of a match for not having their lineup in on time, but I don't think I've ever done it between a set where I penalized a coach because it wasn't in by 1 minute. Have you done, Tony, have you ever done that, or anybody ever really had that issue? So,
Not at the high school level.
yeah.
Jeff, the only person you should penalize would be that no-call coach.
Is that you, Chris? Who's talking?
That's Mike. You should penalize that no-call coach.
You're trying to get a little closer, Mike. I can't hear you.
I think he's saying something about penalizing the Nordhoff coach. I don't know.
Oh, well, that's okay. You can penalize him all you want.
Okay, sounds good.
You have my permission to card him anytime. All right. Okay, end of the sets. We're going to send them off. We believe, again, I haven't been given 100%, but we believe we are not changing sides during this season. That teams are going to stay on their same side of the court the entire match. They're not going to switch. That's what we believe is happening. I do not have 100% confirmation of that yet, but I will. Okay, intermissions, 3 minutes. Like we said, 3 minutes. The only exception would be if they have a presentation, a special, something, but they have to let you know, and that will occur between the second and the third set is when they would do any sort of special event, a serving contest, something like that. If we have a senior night, all of that happens prior to the start of the match, okay? Before the first serve. We don't do that in the middle of the game, okay, or in the middle of the match, okay? At high school, during high school, I've only had a few times where we've actually had some event that's extended that intermission for longer than 3 minutes because they were doing something, okay? Doesn't happen very often. Okay, we talked about checking the score at the end. Don't check you just have to okay with the score. The R2 okays with the scorekeeper that everything's good, and that's considered checking the score. One thing they didn't talk a lot about is the handling of the substitutions, the R2's responsibility to handle substitutions. When let's say the team A wants to have a substitute, by that, the coach can call for sub. Hey, sub, I got a sub, and that's fine, letting you know, sends the subs up. He does not have to do that. All he has to do is send that player up there. As soon as that player enters the substitution zone, which is the 10-foot line, the 10 meter or the 3 meter line, the 10-foot line extended, that's a request for a substitution. Okay. So if that player comes into your substitution zone, you blow the whistle and the coach, no. The coach goes, no, I don't want that. Okay. And they want to pull that back. That's going to be a delay. Okay. If they do that. Okay. So it's going to be a yellow card delay. But they can, if the coach doesn't want to take the delay, he can put that player into the game. Okay. Also, if they're sending up multiple substitutions, if they're sending up 2 or 3 players to be subbed in at once, the players, the second and the third player, the second has to wait outside that 10-foot, outside that substitution zone for you to complete the first substitution. So 2 players come up, blow your whistle, substitution, first substitution steps in, and you go, okay, I have 6 for 8, okay, and you let them enter the game. Then the next substitution steps in, and you go, okay, I've got 7 for 12, and send them into the game, and then that's how you continue. So the second and third or subs will wait until that first sub is completed within the substitution zone. All right. Okay. Try as the R2, remember, you always have the R1s back, okay? Don't throw them under the bus, all right? So if you have a question, if the coach brings you a question that you're not able to answer, okay, one of your best responses is, Coach, I'm not exactly sure what he saw or what he called, but I will find out for you, okay? But that doesn't mean you're gonna stop the game and run across, okay, and find out what happened. What that means is that when you have the opportunity as the R2, you'll find out why he called that or what the reason for that call was. Okay, and that's going to be a timeout or or between sets. Okay, if the coach wants a more immediate answer, they need to send their captain over to talk to the R1 to ask about that particular situation, whatever the situation is that the coach is unhappy with. Okay. Well, if it's a judgment call, like a hand call, they really don't have a whole lot to complain there. They don't have a whole lot to stand on. It's really your call. It's a judgment call. It's your call. If a captain comes over and asks me, well, why did you call that? Or why is that a double? Or why isn't that a double? I will give them a very quick answer, but my goal is to get the game going again. I think I've told you this before. In basketball, for example, the game moves so fast that by getting that game started and moving again, the coach has nothing to do but start to coach his players again and stop, yelling at you about that particular call. We want to try and do the same thing in volleyball. Is we want to get that game moving so that they're focusing on the next action, not continuing to harp on something that just happened. Okay. If it's a rule interpretation, that becomes a different situation. If they ask you about a rule interpretation, then they have where they could ask for more information about a rule interpretation. All right. All right, let me share. Any questions on anything I've said there? Okay. Okay. Everybody okay with powering through? Does people need a break? Yay, nay? I don't think I'll be going all the way till 8 o'clock. So if we just kind of want to go through, we'll probably be able to stop in, I would say, 15 or 20 minutes.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah,
yes.
Let's power through.
Okay. Power through has worked for me.
Jeff, Chris Dryden.
All right.
Jeff.
Yes.
Chris Dryden.
Yes, sir.
This has to do with the use of R2s moving into this season, and maybe have you heard anything with COVID? There's no money to pay for R2s, case in point, Pacifica, which is to me totally bogus. What have you heard? I mean, are they going to cut? Have you guys heard they're going to cut R2s back on JV matches like Pacifica does? Or I think we really need to be out ahead of this as an association.
Pacifica hasn't used an R2 for anything but a varsity game for a couple years now. They're the only ones who do it.
Okay, here's my belief. Our association, CIF, is so strong on concussions. We see the litigation factor. When you're looking at $50 times 10 home games, that's 500 versus a kid gets clocked, that's 5 million. Pacifica is one of the richest high schools, the largest high school now in the county. And I think our association needs to write them a letter and have a little come to Jesus meeting with them. Tell me one other sport, water polo, basketball, football, they just cut out officials. I think
No, I agree with you because it's in the blue book that they have to have 2 officials, but for some reason they haven't been. So that is something we need to address.
Let them get away with it because they're Oxnard. I think that is one of the richest high schools, the largest high schools, and they've got to build another high school that, you know, let's draw the line in the sand. We now as officials can get clocked and sued because we made a bad decision on kicking a kid or asking a kid to get off course on concussion. And yet we let these guys rule us for $50 a game. That's ridiculous.
I agree 100%, Chris.
I agree with you too, Chris, but wouldn't that be something that we should be bringing to Anita and Anita should be addressing?
I agree with that. We should.
We had that last year, if you remember, and we found out that they can request additional rep for an R2. We didn't have one for Laguna Blanca, and John told him we bring somebody from the northern section, but they're going to have to pay mileage, so we did it that way. But in our SCVOA meeting, they said the same thing. It's not mandated to have 2. It's just you have to do all you can to do it and prove why you can't. You can request it.
Yeah, but
it's in the blue book.
That it could be liability, and we should address it as a safety issue, not a volleyball issue.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike, but it's not mandated. We went through that.
Okay. That's my input.
Robert, are you going to call Anita?
Yeah, I'll send her an email tomorrow.
Yeah, we dealt with it last year with Anita. She'll have the same answer.
Thank you.
Maybe it changed.
Okay. I just want to make a clarification Roy brought up to me. I think if we have a situation where we have a mystery number where number 6 is supposed to be on the court, but number 12 is there. If we do not have a number 6, we're going to put number 12 in the game via a substitution is what we're going to do. We're going to charge them with a substitution and insert number 12 or number 12 remain on the court. Okay. The situation with if it's a libero number, then we're just then we're just allowing the correction. There wouldn't be a substitution because there are no substitutions involving a libero. A libero doesn't substitute. It's not counted as a substitution when a libero enters the game. So if the libero number is incorrect, we just make the correction. If it is a player's number that is incorrect or mystery number that's on the court, we change it via a substitution. Okay, but we're not going to penalize otherwise. Okay, thank you, Roy, for bringing that to my attention. All right, let me go through I'm going to go through our warm-up procedures, and I'm going to go through our timeout procedures next. Okay, so here is our warm-up protocol. This is available on our website. Go to our website and you can download this if you do not already have it. It is good to have with you so that you know what the protocol is for starting a regulation match. Okay, this does not apply in tournament situations. Tournament situations, we go by whatever the rules of the tournament are, which can be as little as 5 minutes between matches rather. Okay, so don't worry about it for tournament, but this in a standard high school match, there. You want to be on the floor, like we said, at least 30 minutes prior to the game. When you can, you want to get the clock going. Some officials will just put 20 on the clock and hold it. Others will put up, if you get, and you have 28 minutes before the match is scheduled to start, they'll put 28 minutes on and let it count down until 20, at which time you have the timer stop the clock. You want to stop the clock at 20 so that you can conduct the coin toss. So that's when you're going to have your captains and head coaches meeting. Okay. A head coach is required in high school to attend your pre-match conference. However, if the head coach is not there because they are running late or they are an off-campus coach and they haven't made it there, a assistant coach may come to the conference or has to come to the conference. But that does not, it used to be in years past, we would not, if the head coach was not at the conference, they were not considered the head coach and they were not allowed to stand during the match. It was whoever the coach that attended the conference was considered the head coach and they were the one that was allowed to stand during the match. We're not doing that anymore. They are allowed to redesignate their head coach, so to speak, so that if the assistant coach is at the conference because the head coach isn't there for whatever reason, but the head coach shows up 10 minutes later, the head coach assumes the head coach role and he's going to be the one that can stand and assume the head coach responsibilities. Okay. After the meeting, so you're going to do your coin toss. You're going to go through your talk with the captains. Does anyone need me to elaborate and talk about what I would talk about during a? Does anyone want me to talk about what I would say during a meeting?
Yeah, that would be really nice.
Okay. All right. So, what I'll do is we'll blow the whistle. I'll usually raise the coin, or I'll either raise the coin or I'll give the captain signal like this with both hands and sort of say, captains, coaches. I call them in, have them, introduce yourselves. I don't think we're going to be shaking hands this year, so it's going to be a verbal introduction from everybody. I'll introduce myself. Hi, Jeff, I'm going to be your R1 tonight. This is Robert. He's going to be your R2 tonight. We're going to do the best job we can for you. Next question I asked, are all your players legally and properly equipped? And you want to get a verbal response, okay? You want to do that, then you turn to the other coach. Coach, are all your players legally and properly equipped? Okay, get a response. You might want to say, does that include jewelry? You might want to bring up, hey, I noticed number 23 over there has an earring. Got to take it out. Okay, it's a good time to do that. Preventative officiating, that's what this is all about. We want to prevent something from happening later. We want to use this as preventative officiating. Okay, I will then go over the ground rules. Okay, and we'll talk about any special circumstances within that gym that are not normal. Okay, so if we have backboards in play, if we have banners, if we don't have a full 6 feet at the end line, which is, I don't think there's any gyms, I think we talked about this before, except in a tournament, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Those sorts, so you go over the ground rules. Remember, we are allowing players to stand at the end of the benches now, as long as they are past the benches. We are also extending the edge of the bench all the way to the walls. That whole thing is a non-playable area now, where it used to be you could play sort of in that past the end of the bench, you were allowed to play the ball, but we're not allowing that anymore. We're continuing a straight line from the front of the bench area all the way to the walls. Okay. So again, you go over ground rules. Then I will usually pass it to my R2 and ask my R2 if they want to share anything. I would like my R2 to share about how they want to handle substitutions, because that's their area of it. That's what they're going to be responsible for. So the R2, if the R2 forgets to say that, you say, coach, make sure your subs wait at the substitution zone before going in. What we're trying to avoid here is we don't want players just running into the game before we have the chance to conduct the substitution procedure, because that's how we can get a player in the game without getting them marked into the score sheet. And now we have a problem later because number 3 ran into the game, replaced a player, you didn't get it. Now number 3 goes back to serve and the scorekeeper goes, hey, wait, number 3 is not supposed to be serving. Number 8 is, and you don't even have him in the game. So you want to be on top of that. You want your substitutions to wait, okay? Then after that, I ask them any questions. Okay, see if I get any questions from any of the players or the coaches. All right, and then I dismiss them. Say, great, have a good game or good sportsman. Oh, and you want to mention sportsmanship too. That's the other thing I usually mention right away. Is that we're conducting this under the best conditions of sportsmanship. No talking through the net. Okay, if you have an issue, come talk to me, sort of thing. Then I try and find out who my speaking captain is going to be. Okay, because the captains that come to the coin toss are not necessarily the playing captains on the floor. Okay, those can always be different. A lot of times coaches like to just rotate their players in the conference. They let different players come to the coin toss every day. So, but your speaking captain or your floor captain is the one you want to know, because that's the one that if there's an issue, they're going to come talk to you. So you want their number. All right. That's the coaches meeting. Okay. At the coaches meeting, you're going to tell the timer to start the clock, or have the R2 tell the timer to start the clock. Okay. And they have shared court from 20 to 15 on the countdown on the clock. From 20 minutes to 15 is shared court. No hitting across the net. Okay. Also, the coach is not allowed. One coach is not allowed to come to the opposite side and start hitting the ball to their own players over the top of the net. Okay. If those of you have seen this before, he cannot be on their side hitting, even though his players aren't passing. The idea is to pass it to their own player and they grab the ball, but he's not allowed to be on the opposite side of the net hitting a ball to his own players to receive. So we're not going to allow that. Okay. Then at 15, stop, give the horn, have the timer sound the horn. Then we're going to put the serving team on. Whoever has first serve, they're going to be the first team on the court. So serving team will start. Doesn't matter if they won the coin toss or not. It matters if they got the first serve, because sometimes if you win the coin toss, you may elect to receive. Okay, so serving team goes on first. They have 6 minutes. They can do whatever they want in their 6 minutes. Okay, if they want to sit on the court and have a powwow or a chat, they're allowed to do that. Okay, if they want to serve for the entire 6 minutes, they're allowed to do that. Okay, whatever they choose to do, they're allowed to do with their 6 minutes on their court. Okay, also, if the other team that's not on, they will usually go to an area of the gym and try and warm up. If they can warm up behind the benches or in an area that's not going to interfere, that's best. But also sometimes they will warm up if close to the wall behind one of the teams. You try and do it where they're not being spiked into. So if they're doing a spiking drill and they're doing one direction, you try and put them behind that team that's spiking so that the balls are not coming in, interfering and coming in there. That's the best thing to do. All right. Then at 9 minutes, stop it. Timer blows the horn again, and the R2 is handling all of this timing responsibility. The R2 then will tell the timer to blow the horn. Okay. And you'll switch teams. And now the other team has their 6 minutes on. Okay. At that 10-minute mark, you want to make sure rosters are submitted. But one thing I forgot to mention, in your pregame, you want the coaches to bring the roster with them to the meeting. That's what we want that's what we wanted for the last several years. So the coaches should be bringing their roster to that meeting at 20 minutes. So you already have it. So asking for the roster at 10 minutes isn't really anything that we need to do anymore, because we should already have it. Okay. He can make changes to his roster for sure up to 10 minutes. That's not a problem. So if he has a player that shows up or a player that he knows got injured or isn't showing up, he can make changes to that roster. That's fine, but you still want that roster turned in and at the table. All right, 9 minutes, we switch teams. Now the other team gets to go. All right, at 3 minutes, you're gonna have the scorekeeper, the R2 is gonna have the scorekeeper blow the horn again to indicate the end of the warm-up period. You are not going to stop the clock, however, at that point. You're going to let the clock run, okay? Lineups need to be there. Now their lineups, serving orders need to be in by 3 minutes prior to. Is that correct? It's 3 minutes, not 2 minutes, right? Somebody help me with that. 2 minutes, Lou? You say it's 2? Mary,
2.
what do you say?
2.
It's 2? Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so 2 minutes. I don't know why I got 3 in my head. All right, so 2 minutes prior to the start of the match, they have to have their lineups in, their serving order, okay? And we all know serving order has to be in a vertical list. We do not accept serving order in the where they are stationed on the court. That's USA, okay? We need it in a vertical list of who their first server is, okay? Then, sorry, all right. Then between 3 minutes and 0 until the start, that is the coach's time. The coaches can use that whole 3 minutes to talk with their team, prepare them, do whatever they're doing at the bench. Okay, that is not the time that we are doing introductions. That is still the coach's time. If both teams are done prior to the 3 minutes, they're ready to go after the horn at 3 at 2 minutes 30 seconds. They're done talking to their team and they want to get going. We can put them out there and then we can start introductions if they're ready. But if a coach wants to use that 3 minutes to talk with his team, do not let the announcer start the introductions until he is completed. Then we put the teams on the end lines, all right? And then any announcements, any introductions, all of that's gonna happen. Then after that, the referee is going to whistle for teams to enter the court. Again, I don't think we're gonna have the situation where they're gonna come around and shake hands under the net. Okay, most likely what's gonna happen here, and I will know this for sure soon, but most likely is that they're just gonna step onto the court into their positions. We're not gonna have the greeting at the net like we normally do. Robert or Jack, anybody else heard anything along those lines or know anything more?
Nothing new yet. It's something
Not yet.
out towards the end of the month or early November.
Right, and we'll get that out to you in whatever way we have to. Okay, most likely we'll put it out in an email. All right, again, that's our warm-up. That's our pre-match warm-up protocol. Again, this is available. This sheet is on our website if you do not have it, and you can download it for yourself. Any questions?
Hey, Jeff, quick question. Why do we get the lineups at 20 still? I mean, is that still going to happen this year?
Yeah, that should happen this year. That's the way they want it.
I mean, I'm sorry, rosters.
Just to simple. I think that's the way they want it. It simplifies things. It prevents you from having to go chase the coach down while he's in the middle of warming up his team or doing something with his team. You don't want to have to walk, you would have to walk onto the court while the coach is in the middle of working and say, Coach, I need your roster,
Okay.
So
they need to bring it to the coaches meeting.
Yep. So that's what we want. Okay. We're not going to, you know what? And just if they don't bring it, just remind them, hey, Coach, I need that. Give them a couple, after the coaches meeting, give them a couple minutes to get it together and get it to you. We're not penalizing anybody for that, but we want them to submit it. Okay.
According to rule book, we are.
It's a yellow card.
It's a yellow card.
It was covered in one of the videos.
Yeah, but in the rule book, they need to bring it to the meeting. Remind them when you call for the meeting, look at the coaches and say, hey, don't forget your roster.
Yeah.
You're just going to look at it, count the check people and give it right back. So it's not the lineup. So don't worry about that. That they have till 2.
It's good preventative. Just when you get there and greet them.
Yeah.
All right. So, sorry, keep going. All right, so here is the timeout protocol. Okay, so the timeout can be recognized by either the R1 or the R2. Okay, you are going to, when the timeout is recognized, you are going to whistle. Okay, signal the timeout on the side of the court that called it. Okay, as the R2, you want to step to that side of the court and give your signal. Okay, I don't know if you can see me here. This would be the court to my left. Okay, this would be the court to my right. Okay, I'd be holding it over here. So that's how I would indicate who's calling the timeout. All right. As soon as the timeout is granted, the clock should start. So as the R2, you should go either point or say something or make sure the timer has started the clock. Okay, to get that 1 minute going. 1 minute should already be up on the clock. So when the match starts or the set starts, you always want your timer to have 1 minute up there and waiting. All right, that's for the timeout. All right. If the R2 does it, the R1 repeats the timeout, okay, and points to the court. Then the R2 wants to make sure they know the number of timeouts that each team has used. So the R2 wants to go over the book and confirm that team A has used 1 timeout, team B, or that's their first timeout, team B has not used any timeouts. The R2 is then going to give a informal signal or a casual signal to the R1 to let them know what our timeout situation is, okay? Then you give the number of timeouts, and then you're kind of, at this point, if I was the R2, I am now checking with my book, with my scorekeeper to make sure everything's okay. I'm looking it over. I'm using that time as the R2 to make sure that there aren't any mistakes, that there aren't any problems, okay? Also might be a time where if you are having communication issues with your R1, that the R1 may ask you to come over to their side and talk to them about something that's going on in the match, or you may have a question that you want to talk to the R1 about. So that is permissible, that you can cross the court to go talk to the R1. Okay. At 15, you're going to warn that are we giving a whistle? We're going to whistle. Are we giving a horn at 15? Did we want a horn at 15? No, we're whistling at 15. Okay, that's right. We're whistling at 15 to indicate that the timeout is coming to a conclusion. Players should start to exit. When the players are on the court, if they're done and they come out at 15 minutes or 15 seconds left and they get on the court, at this time, the scorekeeper is now going to sound the horn to show that the timeout is over. Both teams have to be ready though. Okay, if only one team is out, the other team can still stay in their huddle and continue to talk. All right. If the teams come out with 7 seconds or less, they want you to let the clock run to 0. Okay, so if it's 7 seconds or less, you're just going to let the clock run down to 0. Then the horn is going to sound. Okay. Then the R2 is going to show the number of timeouts by holding up 1 and 0, if that's the situation for the appropriate teams. The R1 is going to repeat that by holding up 1 and 0. Okay. Then the timer should reset the clock. The R2, here is your responsibility. You are to check that both teams are ready, and that the benches are ready, and that the lines people are ready in their proper positions. After you have visually scanned and checked all of that, you're then going to pass the game back to the R1. So you basically bring your hand out and point at the R1, letting them know that you're ready to go and you've checked everything and the teams are ready to go. And then the R1 will take the game over and they will blow for service. So,
Yeah.
or timeout.
One quick thing that I found sometimes, you do the 15-second double tweet and get the players start to come back. But if they're still not ready to play, they're not in position ready to play, and the coach may be talking to them still, or they may be talking, that timeout, I believe, should continue until the horn sounds. And too often we'll stop, or the horn will sound or whatever, and there's, time left or whatever, and the coach may be still talking to them. So we need to make sure that they get their full minute if they need it. If they're back on the court in 30 seconds, big deal. But a lot of times coaches will take a lot longer.
Right. So what Larry's saying is if one team is ready to play, don't let that horn go until both teams are ready to play. They get to use, even if it's not the team that called the timeout, let's say team A calls a timeout and he's done in 15 seconds because he just wanted to say something quick to his team, the other team gets their minute. So they can use as much of that time. They do need to be on the court ready to play at a minute, okay? If the horn blows and they're working their way onto the court, that's fine, okay? We're not going to do anything. But if the horn blows and they're still in there talking and the coach is not bringing them out, now we can have a delay of the game, okay? But that's only if they're holding them in the timeout, okay?
Also remember.
Go ahead, Marianne.
Also remember, a lot of tables, you'll get the kids that are so used to sounding the horn for you at 15, and we have some officials that want them to sound the horn at 15. Remember, the horn is you're done. get back on the court. The whistle is you're almost done. Your time is running out. And that's why we want to do the whistle at 15 and not the horn.
Jeff, I know we strive for, this is Dick, I know we strive for consistency and everything, but this horn protocol is one area that I've seen where we're not as consistent as we could be.
And I agree with you, Dick. So let's make that right now that we want the whistle at 15 and we want a horn to end the timeout. So again, if they're out before 15, if they're out at 30, like Larry said, you're not going to use your whistle. They're ready. They're out. The teams are ready. You're just going to go directly to the horn at that point.
Hey, Jeff, do we have this protocol on our website?
We should. I will double check, but I'm pretty sure we have this on our website as well.
Okay, perfect.
But we'll double check that. So if it's not on our website now, it'll be there within a week.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm
Jeff,
sorry. I went longer
sorry.
than I thought I was going to go. Anybody?
Jeff,
Yes.
I'm sorry, one more thing on what Mary Ann mentioned and everybody else has mentioned. If you're the R2, it is really important that you communicate with whoever is running the clock as to how you are going to signal them as far as cutting the time off and hitting the horn, or no horn, don't blow the horn unless I tell you to. You know, that I think is really critical, because you got kids, let's face it, who are running those, who are doing that, and it could be a different one after each set, or it could be, you know, brand new people.
Right. Same issue you have with lines people, you'll have with your table. The scorekeeper will run off, and we're going to go into scorekeeping next week. That's what I was going to talk about next. Next week, or in 2 weeks, our last meeting, we have two things we're going to be doing. One, we're going to be doing a line clinic by Tom Fakahaney is going to give a line clinic at the beginning of the meeting. The reason for that line clinic is two things. One, they are looking for lines people for junior college in our area. So he is trying to get more certified line people to work the junior college games. Those are paying $60 an assignment now. So the pay is not bad to be the linesman at a JC, at a junior college game. But there's also lots of good information that he is going to provide to us about lining and what should be happening with the lines people for you as the referee in a high school situation. So that's going to happen. That's going to take about an hour. I'll give you more information. If you want to do JC lining, there are other requirements. You have to take a test. You have to do the manual. There's some other things to be a linesman for JC, in addition to attending that clinic or hearing that clinic. Then after that clinic is done, hang on, Mike. After that clinic is done, then Kathy is going to be giving us a scoring presentation, how to properly score in a high school match. All right. And that is really, I can't tell you how many officials I have met who do not know how to keep score. All right. Or what the scorebook should exactly look like. So Kathy is going to assume that position and do that for us. So those are the last two things we're going to be doing in our instructional program, other than the makeup meeting, which will happen in November. Okay. Lou or Mike, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to ask you, Jeff, what do you think of us having a handout that we give to the person who's handling the horn and the score, so that if everybody gets the same paper consistently, that we'll start getting more of a consistency?
Well, this protocol, this timeout protocol, that a lot of referees will do that. They will have that in their bag and they will give it to the scorekeeper. Several other times I've seen them. I think mine's laminated, or was my bag. My car got broken into about 6 months ago, and my referee bag was stolen. But I think mine was laminated, so I would let them hold it, but you got to remember to get it back. That or make yourself several copies so that you can leave copies there at the table, which isn't a bad idea either, for you to have copies and just leave them with the schools.
I would just that if everybody did it, then we would probably start getting more consistency.
I think I agree with you. I think you're right.
Also this year, in the COVID year, there's nothing, just this year, there's nothing that we should really be giving to the table or the lines people. when we have lines people this year, it'll either be flags that the school provided for us, or we'll be back to the old school hand signals.
That's true. I forgot about that.
So even pens, libero sheet score, we don't want to give anything to any of the players, students,
So
anyone out of school. So
Robert, hand sanitizer should be part of our equipment now too.
The school. You don't
Well,
want
you
to
should
get into
carry it
that.
yourself.
I understand you should carry your own, but we want to try and alleviate our officials from getting locked into that. I agree that everybody should carry something to protect themselves. One thing I was going to presentation there, Robert, is if anybody has ordered their e-whistles,
Big for the bag.
again, trying to actually get them in hand, work with them, understand, there are different settings on the whistles. There's some word out that there may be a new rechargeable e-whistle coming out from Fox, but actually I was trying to get a hold of Tony to see if he had heard anything either. But if you haven't got a battery operated e-whistle, it's probably good to get one and start working with it. Just a FYI.
All right, we'll also be giving out information about where to get your shirts. That'll be sent out to you. Remember, we're using blue. Everyone's wearing blue. No more white shirts. So everyone has to have one of the blue official shirts. Marianne has contact information for that. All right. All right.
Is Marianne going to put in an order?
Jeff, one thing about, I was going to ask Kathy, if we're going to have a scoring clinic at the next, should we go ahead and print out some score sheets?
I would
Yes.
say
Clinic, Kathy?
Yes, bring one with you.
those score sheets are on the website as well.
No, I know, but I'm just asking, should we make sure?
Right, but I'm letting everybody else know. So score sheets are all over the website.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say, and this is still tentative. I know Jeff has a presentation from CCVOA that is already being, that's what we will be working with. The one thing that I'll try and put together that I think is somewhat more important than necessarily knowing how to complete the score sheet, because again, you have to give instruction to new participants at the table. But I think the one thing that's really critical as an official is, so if something does occur at the table, you know the steps in how to research the problem. That's the most critical. Most officials do not know how to backpedal or review the score sheet either right side up or upside down. Those of you who can read the score sheet upside down, bravo. But it's those small tools that give confidence to the coaches when you can research the problem, correct it, and now go forward and be more proactive with your score. So.
And on the question of ordering shirts, there is no discount for ordering in bulk this year. So if everybody wants to just place their own orders, that's probably the way to go this year.
Okay.
And heads up right now, they do have a sale on the certified or 2020 gear website. I can put it in the chat. They have a sale. If you put it in the discount code PAVO15, you get 15% off your order. And I just did it and it saved me like $20.
Robert, will you send it out to everybody? Maybe send it by email so they have it.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Robert, is that just shirts or pants as well?
They actually have pants now.
Yeah, they have
Okay.
shirts and pants.
Yeah.
I think.
And you might want to, they have both the poly check and the poly smooth. The poly check was the very first one that went out. The poly smooth is the newer version. So I would suggest going with the poly smooth.
All right.
Robert,
Sorry,
you're
I
just on the
I have a
website.
question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, for Robert. Jeff's gonna let us out really quick, and then we'll save our questions for when everyone's on their way out. Sound good?
So if you have questions, hang around. If anything else, Robert, we're good?
We're good.
All right. So you guys are excused unless you have questions you want for one of us. And then you can hang out and ask us those questions directly. Otherwise, thank you for attending. Next meeting is on the 28th.
Certification.
Yeah. Are you going to extend that certification test or no? I know we talked about that.
I shouldn't need to.
Let's see how it goes. Let's see how many people. Everybody try. Please do your best to take it by this Friday night. And then if we have a large bulk, we'll consider extending it. But at this point, we would like to close it by Friday evening.
Guys,
I just didn't know
you can take a little bit every day, save it. It'll take you 15 minutes max. It's only
Okay.
50 questions.
It's only
I didn't remember getting notification about it. My bad.
Do 10 problems a day, Jack.
Yeah, nobody ever said that. So I was waiting for it to come out.